Hi, Homeworthy. Welcome to my home. I'm Philip Gorrivan. We're in Washington, Connecticut. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
I'm interior designer Philip Gorrivan. I do interior design, focus mostly on residential, although I do hospitality as well, restaurants here and there. I have a wallpaper company. I also do fabrics and lighting and things like that. We're in Washington, Connecticut, which is in the northwest corner of Connecticut. We're not too far from the Berkshires. I would say it's called the foothills of the Berkshire Mountains. So we're in a fairly high elevation, I'd say my house here is about 1,000 feet above sea level, and we're also very close to the New York border, Hudson River Valley. It's a really special area. New Yorkers have been coming up here as an option to, going to the beach or going to Newport, the Hamptons, and so forth. And it's a pretty established country area retreat. Welcome to my porch. I think this is probably my favorite space in the house. We have parties here, we have friends over for cocktails. The thing I love about it, it's like a layered space. I wanted the porch to feel like it was an extension of my house, but still obviously acknowledge that it's outdoors as well. All the furniture most of the things here are reclaimed, they're antique. I had them restored. This is all indoor-outdoor fabric, so it may look like it's interior fabric, but it's out here all the time and to withstand the elements. This is a little table I picked up recently at an auction. Occasionally I'm always swapping things out, and I think that's what interior design is. You're always looking, you always can find something that might be, a better fit than what you had before. So this is a little dining area as well. I would say this is where we have most of our meals when it's warm out in the summer months. This is a ficus tree that I've had. It's growing like a weed. I love plants. Thankfully, I have a place to winter them over. Otherwise, I don't know what I would do. I would have no room in the house for all these things. But again, I think the secret to having a comfortable space like this is to have lots of plants and living things, and also just like little things that I think add a little bit of narrative. I love groupings, and I think groupings are, essential to creating a space. Whether it's a grouping of these little rattan heads, or it could be, again, a grouping of plants or whatever it is. But you'll see there are lots of groupings ahead. This was one house that I used to go by all the time, and it's like one of 3 houses on the street, and fantasize about, and wish that it would come on the market somehow, and somehow, it could be ours. And it just so happened that we knew the people that owned this house, and our friends were very close with them, and they mentioned to our friends that they were interested in selling. This house found us. We didn't find it. It was really, that's how it feels. It's a federal style house built probably at the end of the 18th century, early 19th century, and it has an interesting story. There was a great flood in the Connecticut River Valley in 1954, and almost all, like in the Depot, which is the town that's down in the valley here, Washington Depot, almost all the houses were destroyed due to this flood. It was devastating, and This happened to be one of the houses that survived the flood in the depot. And there was a family that owned basically all the land on this street. And they paid $1 to have this house brought up in the 1950s. So the reason why this house, being a colonial house, is set back from the street is because it was moved here in the 1950s. So it's an interesting story. I mean, I would say, again, I love narrative in design. I like houses that tell stories. I like rooms that tell stories. And I mean, this house has like an instant narrative to it. Okay, so now let's head inside. Welcome to my family room. And one thing I do want to say about the rooms I'm going to show you is the way I like to design is I like each room to sort of tell its own unique story, whatever that may be, and it could be a theme, but at the same time, it's important for rooms to also communicate with each other, which I'll show you. It's a large room, but it's super cozy because we've got this Franklin fireplace, which is like an open stove, and it's another spot for entertaining. Again, it's like a good option from the porch, and it's a place where I can have big dinner parties and big groups, and it's like a lofty space, and it also has nice views of the property in the back. The sofas, they're Harvey Prober, mid-century, but they're covered in a fabric, one of my fabric designs. And I mean, again, I just think they really anchor the space nicely. The coffee table is mid-century. I actually bought it in Los Angeles at a company called J.F. Chen. And this is one of those things. I was looking for years for a coffee table that would be this exact size, something that's long and narrow to fit this space. And I was in LA shopping for a client, and boom, I found it. So it was a perfect thing. So, and I didn't have to, it's again, like it just sort of it found me. I didn't find it. This is a light that I designed for Best & Lloyd. And that's the prototype. That was the first light before they went into production. So, I would say like everything in this room has its own unique story. These chairs I found in the Paris flea market. They're French school chairs from the 1940s that were sandblasted. This piece of linen I found in Sweden. It's an antique piece of linen that just it covers the table perfectly. These are English 19th century acid jars that I bought from an antique dealer. This is a French wine container. These are plasters that I bought in Paris. It's a grouping. I have about 10 of them, and then whenever I see a plaster, they've become very rare to find, but they're all plasters from the 19th century. I've got about 10 or 15 of them. This is a pie safe that was in my wife's family from the 19th century. Everything has its own little story to tell. As I said, like everything in here is personal. This is the weather vane that was on my house growing up in Maine. One of the things I love to collect is antique glass. And, this is part of my collection. Some of this glass is from the 18th century. Some of it's mid-century. I would say the thing that I find most attractive to glass is obviously the color, but also the shapes. And I like working with the shapes and mixing the shapes. And actually, some of these pieces I found on the property as well. They were unearthed when we were doing work. So some of them actually have always been here on the property, which I think is nice. When we initially moved in here, there are some things I mentioned that the landscape was a big priority, and just making it, opening it up, allowing more light in, having obviously more sunshine in the pool area. But I would say, architecturally, it's been unchanged. First of all, I think it's perfect the way it is. Secondly, I also believe that it's important to preserve houses that, especially if a house is done well and say it's designed well and it's architecturally correct, I think it's important to preserve it and restore it as much as possible. The rooms are small, and actually it's one of the things I like about, again, like a country house, is having a mixture of large rooms that you can entertain in and small, and I think it's a good mix of that. This kitchen was added on later. It wasn't part of the original house. This was probably added on about 25 years ago. But what I love about the space is that it's very bright. I like skylights. Some people don't like them, but I love them, and I love the light that they cast in the space. The main attraction to this kitchen is probably this enormous piece of Danby marble that we have on the island. It took like 6 men to bring it in. It's never moving, but this is definitely the area that we all hang out around all the time. Yeah, I have, you'll see more collections. In here, there's a lot of creamware, and it's something that I've been collecting for a number of years. I think I've got about 40 creamware pitchers, which have lots of uses, especially to put flowers in. I want this kitchen to feel like, everything's very accessible and, not too precious, but also, sort of orderly. Everything has its place, which is nice. This is an antique Dutch, I would say Hudson River Valley Dutch kaas. A kaas is basically, it's Dutch for a chest. And this is something that we bought early on, and it was in our New York City apartment. It's 18th century. And when we left the apartment, we didn't have any place for it. And when we bought this house, we found the perfect wall for it. But this chest is everything, because it's basically our wet bar. This is an important thing to have here, because this is where we keep our liquor and all our glasses, and it's just great for entertaining. I have many favorite cocktails. Lately, I've been experimenting with. I've been drinking white Negronis, which let's see. I think I've got all the ingredients here. We can have one later, not now. But the white Negronis, I think, would be one of my favorites for the summer. Also I love a good Moscow Mule as well. You'll see throughout the house there are a number of interesting pieces of art. This is a piece that was I bought in Los Angeles at a gallery. It was made in 1963 by an artist named Richard Ferralla. He was a contemporary to Louise Nevelson. And it's an enormous piece. And again, it just so happened that we had a space here for it. I like that contrast of, a modern art with, some of the antique barn beams and the different period details in here. The floors are all original. I'll show you. The floors are really cool. It's one of the things that I love about this house. Is like every room has different floorboards. Some of them are like wide, and there are like openings in them, and it's taken hundreds of years to get the floors to look like this. It's really special. I love clocks. This is an 18th century grandfather clock. It actually tells time. I just have to wind it up, and it has a nice chime, but. Yeah, this is from 1776. It's a nice American antique. Again, this is like 7'7", this clock. So luckily, I have one place to put a clock like this. These are actually decorative beams. They're not real beams, because these sort of beams would be more like in a barn. But I like how they add this. They add this change in texture to the kitchen, which is nice, and it makes it feel like a country kitchen. My main tips for design are, think about what your interests are. Whatever it is, whether it's collecting. Again, collecting is a big part, I think, of design. Are you interested in art? Are you interested in collecting ceramics? Sort of what excites you? Flowers. And I'm talking more about a country house. Think about the things that you love, because I think the best designed houses are rooms that tell a story about all the things you love. And a house should be an extension of who you are as a person, and it should reflect your interests. And again, if you love, your interests could be your children, it could be family, it could be cooking, but whatever it is, I would say, develop that, because at the end of the day, a house has to be a reflection of, those who inhabit it. And I would say that to me is the most important thing, and that's what makes a house or a design or a room authentic, and not something that's sort of contrived or not you. I often see people, design spaces or have houses that are designed, but they're not them. They're somebody else. And I think you have to be true to what your interests are and true to who you are. And once a house, once you design your space, like for instance, I have not touched one thing in this house since I designed it 12 years ago. Yes, I'm always like sort of moving things around and tweaking things, or there might be a new table that came to replace the old table. But I would say by and large, I haven't changed anything in the space. And I think that's important. I think that says a lot about the design, because it adequately is a reflection of my personality and my tastes. And it's ultimately a place that, makes me happy. And your house should be obviously a place that makes you happy, especially a weekend house, because it's your escape. The other tips I have are, don't be afraid to take risks in design. I see this all the time with my clients, this fear of working with color and pattern or doing something bold in a space. I think that like one bold gesture can really set the design for a space and do amazing things. Now I'd like to bring you into the dining room. I love this room. This is an elegant room. Not only is it the dining room, but it's also a room that we walk through all the time to get through the rest of the house. One of the first things I did was I ordered this. I had this custom-made Gracie scenic wallpaper put in. I wanted it to be all about the gray tones and and amethyst. And I have a pretty large collection of amethyst glass. You'll see it over here. And I wanted, I wanted this room to have a different feeling from the other rooms. The focal point here is this Jean-Michel Franck dining table that I had made for the space, and these continental parcel gilt dining chairs. So this I would say this is a room for more special occasions, and dining in the winter months is really nice. I have to say I love the way the light comes in and reflects off the amethyst glass. I walk through here, and when I see that, it makes me happy. I have these two flamingos, have found a home here in front of the fireplace. I found them at an antique, I found them in East Hampton at an antique show, and just fell in love with them. They're so sort of playful and I think beautiful. I would say this room is probably the oldest room in the house. This would have been the kitchen originally, especially with this big beehive oven. This was the kitchen, and then the room adjoining to it is probably like a little bedroom. And I'll show you the front room as well, the living room. So this is like the oldest part of the house, and you can also tell by the floorboards. They're all very irregular, and you can see they look quite ancient. So my book, which was just published in March, It's called Authentic Interiors. It's been a long time coming because my book, this book is really the story of my design voice as an interior designer and how I see design. And I do think that, I mean, again, I think it's really important to have a point of view as a designer. And, you know, for me, it's about creating spaces that are authentic to the homeowner. And I'm going to use that, as I said before, the best rooms, the best houses are ones that reflect the people who inhabit them. And I would say that's the overall guiding theme of the book. Let me take you into the living room. Everyone loves this room because it's very dark and enveloping, and it has a lot of paneling, and it's lacquered too, lacquered paint, so it's very reflective at night. The source of inspiration for this room was the Sleeper McCann house in Gloucester, Mass. It's a house that I've visited many times over the years. It's probably my favorite house. And he was one of America's first interior designers, and believe that, like myself, believe that each room should tell its own unique story. So while the dining room has its own unique story, this room does as well. And this room is just a wonderful space to withdraw to, whether you're alone or you've got guests, and after dinner, it's nice and dark. It's very much a night room, and it's also a cool space in the house as well when it's warm out. This is again one of the original rooms in the house, and this would have been like a multi-purpose room in the 18th century. The sofa and the chairs were upholstered in one of my fabrics for Durley Highland Court. The rug is custom. I designed, and it's one of my patterns. Funny enough, like we had a flood in here about 10 years, I'd say about 6 years ago, and absolutely everything in this room was destroyed. And the insurance company well, you can replace everything. And I did. I replaced all the upholstery, the rug, and I replaced it in the exact way it was before. So nothing ever changed, because I just love the way, I've loved this room, and I haven't touched it since the day it was finished. I'm a big fan of ceramics that have, antique ceramics that have in different colors. I love, again, this is sort of these are greens and blues. They're all Chinese, some mid-century. I've got dozens and dozens of these. And again, I think that, having groupings in spaces and rooms, they create interesting vignettes, and they have a lot of impact, I think. There are more groupings here. These are mid-century French ceramic vases. They're for like little flowers, like little, just like little flowers to create groupings on a table. I've got more of these, but again, I love how this turquoise color contrasts nicely with the wall color. And the wall color, incidentally, this is my favorite color. It's by Farrow & Ball. It's called Tanner's Brown. This desk, my wife bought at an auction at Christie's back in many, many years ago. And it was in her apartment in New York. And we later found out that this desk is actually, it's 18th century American, and it's actually from this area, probably from the same town. And it was built in the 18th century. It could have possibly been in one of these houses. Who knows? But you can tell it's a Connecticut piece by the fan. And it's made of apple wood. Very cool, I think. It's a wonderful feeling knowing that like a piece of furniture, it's found its way back home. The coffee table is mid-century. I actually don't know offhand who the maker was, but I saw this at a gallery in New York, and I just thought it was perfect because it's antlers, deer antlers, but it's all made of brass, and it's from the 1970s. So I like how it just has this interesting narrative. It's like something, it has a country feeling to it because of the deer antlers, but at the same time, it's very modern, mid-century. Let's see, this is a painting that I bought many years ago in Vermont at a gallery. This has an interesting story. I'm a big fan of, sustainability. I found this once in front of my apartment over in Sutton Place. It was in the trash. And I saw just the one corner, just like this little corner coming out. I had it reframed, but it was part of like a grouping of things, some drawings and some prints. Anyway, I took this to an art dealer, and he's like, oh, this is like 19th century. It's a named German artist. But again, you just never know what you're going to find. Especially in New York City. I'm always looking. So one thing I will say is in here, talking about things, like things that are found, things that I found at flea markets. You'll see like everything in every one of these rooms is a mixture of high and low. So, so I have a very valuable antique American desk, coupled with a chair that, I got at a flea market at the White Elephant. So, I think, and that's part of the magic of design is it's important to mix things, high and low, mix periods, play with scale. Again, that's all part of the magic, I think, and that's part of the art of designing a space well. Let's go upstairs now. Welcome to the second floor. It's really small and cozy up here, but we have a guest room and 2 little bedrooms I want to show you. First is the guest room, which is my favorite bedroom in the house because of the views of the property. It has great light. This room is the right proportions. It's got a really comfortable bed and, a nice seating area, like a really proper seating area as well. So, when we have guests, this is like a room that you could escape to and do your own thing. And it's important to have lots of places to sit in a house. And that's like my pet peeve is, going to a house and, just having like the places you can sit is like are really limited and you never feel truly comfortable. So this room is, when I started the design for this room, I started with a wall covering. This is one of my wall covering designs. I call it Desert Storm, but it's very much, it looks like camo, but it also looks like tree bark as well. And I wanted, that was the starting point. And then I found this incredible 19th century photograph of the Colosseum. That very much anchors the space. And so, after I found this, then when I ordered the bed, I ordered a custom headboard so that this photograph would fit over it nicely. And the furniture, this is actually a piece that I had from my family growing up. It's Duncan Fife. I guess the advantages of having a fabric collection and a wallpaper collection is that I did a fabric that looks like my wallpaper, which is nice. So the wallpaper, the fabric is a woven version of the walls. The chair, I love this chair. It's super comfortable. And this came from Jeffrey Bean's house out in Long Island. It's got very unique, I think. It's got a beautiful base. I feel like this is the kind of room that you could escape to, you could sleep in late. And again, when we have guests here, I want them to feel like they're home, and I don't want them to feel any pressure. And I want them to, if they want to stay in the room, they can stay in the room and hang out. The dresser is a family piece. It's from Vermont. It's from the 18th century. And again, it's one of those pieces that we didn't have a place. It found its spot. It's never going to leave there. Piece I love. It's a bronze dish with Medusa on it. It's very dramatic. It's very, very grand tour, if you will. The fabric, which is camo, is also one of the fabrics from my collection with Baker. I like how all the patterns work really nicely together. This room has a lot of harmony, I think. Oh yeah, so peppered throughout the house, you'll see a lot of owls. I have an obsession with owls. I always have. And not only that, we have owls all through, and we have owls out in the woods, and we hear them every night. There are many of them, and I've seen them on the street. I've even seen an owl on my porch. So we're owl rich up here, and it's funny. Like we've had many names for this house. It's gone through many iterations, but one of the names we call it is Owl's Nest. And actually, I used to raise bees. I had an apiary up until 2 years ago, and I was calling my honey the Owl's Nest honey. But I've had to stop it because we also have a bear problem as well. So I'm going to try to reintroduce the bees next year and maybe put them in a different place. And I have to take a different approach because it's a big problem up here. But for many years, I've had bees, and being a beekeeper it's something that I've loved to do. I've loved doing over the years. So there are lots of owls. I have stuffed owls I bought. They're not kid toys. But you'll see we have owl sculptures. There are owl paintings. They're peppered throughout the house, quite a few. There are owls. It definitely one of my favorite creatures. All right, so now that you've seen the guest room, let me take you to the kids' rooms. First, my daughter's room. This room is entirely designed by her. I remember when she was a little girl. She's now 25 years old, and the room has not changed. We keep the room as she left it. And I remember when we were designing this room, I asked her, I said, well, how do you want your room to look? And she's like, Dad, I want grass green walls, I want zebra curtains, and I want a tennis ball green headboard. So this is it. And it hasn't really changed, but it's nice. We use this as a guest room, but also, this is her little space when she comes home. And usually there's also a zebra comforter on here as well. So it's fun. I think it was well designed. Yeah, and I think it still feels very fresh. And actually, you see this in a lot of houses from the 19th century and 18th century. They use grass cloth because grass cloth can cover up, all sorts of wall issues, right? Unevenness, cracks, you name it. So they used to use grass cloth and paint it over so it looked like it was part of the wall. Let me take you to my son's room. So this is Charlie's little room. It's a cute little space, and it also happens to house my map collection, which has been, again, growing over the years. And we have maps in here from many different periods, from an 18th century map of Paris above the bed to, again, some really cool maps. I would say that creates the narrative, the story for this room. We were putting this room together. He's like, Daddy, I like maps. So I was like, great. Well, why don't I put my map? I'll put my maps in here for you. So it worked out. The only time I'll have to change it is, when it's time to, update the painting or the wallpaper and so forth. But, I think that, again, for me, that's an important thing about design. And I tell my clients, like, do it once and do it right. And then, you don't have to worry about like redoing it in 5 years. I know some people like want to redo their spaces every 5 or 10 years. And yes, rooms have to get painted, especially rooms that are heavy use. Paints fade over time, wall covering, fabrics fade over time. I get that, but I do believe that like if you do it right the first time, you can do it once. And again, the floors up here are very cool, I think. They're just so interesting. And I know, a lot of people have issues with the big grooves. And the reason these floors have big grooves in them is because they're so old that they've shrunk over time. And I know it's an issue for some people because, Legos and things get stuck in the floorboards in between. But I feel like it's part of the original character of the space. Let's go into the primary bedroom now. So this room has a lot of space. It feels like it's tucked away from the other rooms in the house. And it was added on later. This is not a room that would have been in the 18th century house. And it's really nice that it's separate from the other bedrooms as well. It's very private. I'd say the design for this room started with the art. I have a collection of contemporary art. Most of it is in the city, but you'll see there are quite a number of pieces here. The focal point in here is this Michael Lauba piece. He's a Berlin artist. It sort of sets the tone color-wise. I also have these two pieces by John L. Moore. This is a painting that I commissioned from him, and this is a drawing. And again, I like the pairing of the contemporary pieces with, these antique pieces and all the texture. This is an antique Moroccan rug, and again, I sort of layered rugs on top of each other to make it feel cozy. This is a French mid-century. It's a Jean Pascal daybed, which, it's like a great spot just to like escape, take a little nap during the day. Again, this is the kind of bedroom that, not only is it really nice to sleep in, but it's also a room that you can escape to. And you can sit in here and you can read a book and get away, especially when the house is full of guests and people. I love this chest. I got this from an antique dealer in North Carolina. It's 19th century English. And I mean, it's just the kind of, I wish I had more of these because it fits everything. It fits so much, and it's such great storage. And I love how it creates some height in the space as well. And again, I do think that like every room, and you'll see, from room to room, that, every room has, things that are high and things that are low, and they create a nice contrast with each other. I happen to remember, it's funny because I have the worst memory for things. But when it comes to art and it comes to antiques and things I've collected, I can remember everything. I remember everything. I remember like who the name, where I bought it, what I paid for it, and who the designer was or what the provenance is. And it's so funny because my daughter's like, Dad, we need to interview you. Because, after you, we're not going to know where anything's from. But it's funny, I just have a memory. I have a memory for those things. And, I don't know, I guess that's, someone a true collector also, and if you're passionate about things, the things you collect, you want to remember everything you can, as much as possible about it. The fabric on the windows is an old Albert Hadley design, which I love. It's something they used to sell at Hinson. It's a fabric that's no longer available. So I'm hoping that those curtains are never going to change. because it really is a special pattern. And, I like how, this room is this mixture of, it's quiet. It's a very quiet space. It's a nice, it has lots of earth tones in it. And then there are these little pops of color throughout. It's mostly through the art. So I've got this Frank Auerbach piece here, a restful art piece, to, just like some personal photographs as well, which, I'm not opposed to having personal. Some people don't want to see personal photographs, but I'm all for it. Especially if they're in nice frames, for sure. And these are all family pieces. This American Empire table. This is a family piece from my wife's side. It's hand painted by one of her ancestors. This quilt actually is a family piece, and it has the date. It was done by one of my wife's great aunts, but you can see the date 1886. But it's a very, very special family piece. A mix of, I've got this Rietveld chair, I've got this chair, next to this English spindleback chair. So again, I think I like playing with periods and forms. I think that's what makes design interesting. Like an all period room to me is not as interesting as a room that has a mixture of periods and designs and shapes. You'll see I've got lots of things from nature peppered throughout the house. Again, I think it's really important to bring in a little bit of the outside. Again, it doesn't have to be, it can be fresh cut flowers, but also just things from nature. And this is an antique collection of butterflies. Also, there are like lots of little stones and rocks in different places. And again, I think it's nice to bring in, they offer like texture and color and kind of reminder that, we're in the country. Let me take you into the office. This was a library. During COVID, it turned out being like this room became everything. It became a family office, basically. So this is where, when anyone is here and doing work, we're doing it here. If we're working virtually, it's in this space. But this, this is a really cozy little room. I love it. The walls are covered in grass cloth. This is a wall covering that I designed for the ceiling. It's like this faux marquetry effect. And the sofa is, this is a sofa. This is a fabric that's discontinued. It's a Billy Baldwin pattern. It's an old pattern. You can't get it anymore. It's a Tree of Life. But again, it's very special and it works really nicely in here. I have a grouping of these fun prints on the wall. This is a hooked rug. This actually came from Bill Blass's house, and I had it mounted. But again, I love the colors, and it's like early American, early 19th century. The fabric on the windows is one of my designs. And, this is just like a nice little room. It's cozy. I have a modern desk here. It's also a good room. Like I have Zooms in this room, and I would say it's a pretty good Zoom room because there's a lot to look at in the background. Adjoining this room is a little powder room. And I guess what I'm most proud about this room is this is another one of my wall covering designs. I call it a Luthra, but it's like a very, I like how it's very lush and leafy, and it's a little bit more tropical design. But again, I have no issue with bringing in like a tropical element into the country. Why not? You should design rooms, and you should use patterns and wall coverings that make you happy when you walk into a space, and this definitely makes me happy. All right, so whenever I walk around the gardens, I always bring a set of clippers just in case I see a weed, and there are lots of weeds out there. I think I mentioned when I first bought this house, this was basically this is a wooded lot. And it was very hard to even see the house from the street. So the first couple years was spent just cleaning up the property, redoing the stone wall, which is quite ancient, just cutting down trees. One of the magical things that happened once I cut down the trees and I created some sunlight, I found discovered these wonderful rock outcroppings on the property, which was a great opportunity to create these raised perennial beds that you see around here. A lot of the plants and the trees have gotten pretty mature now, but when we first moved here, everything's like grown in. It's actually, everything's overgrown now because of all the rain we've gotten. I like to think of the year 2024 as the year of the hydrangea, because I've never had so many hydrangea as I've had this season. It's amazing. And you're sort of seeing the tail end of it right now. This is, it's August, and there's usually not a lot blooming in August. This is like that sort of shoulder time. There'll be a lot more flowers blooming in the, next month in September. There'll be the asters will be coming out, and the sedum and a lot of sort of these fall-loving flowers. So the first thing that blooms are the peonies, and I've got about 100 different peony plants on the property. In July, the hydrangeas start coming out, and the hydrangea bloom all season. I do pepper in some annuals as well, just to add a little bit of color. And you'll see, there's a lot of material here, a lot. This is just one of like 6 different gardens, and this is mostly hostas, hydrangea, the peonies, which, this is a beautiful garden in June. And you can see from over here, it gives you sort of a sense of the undulating property that I'm on. So there's no flat land here, which is nice, and it's just sort of undulating, and then there's a hill, then it goes down again. So it's mostly maples. The oldest tree on the property is this cherry tree, and apparently this is a cherry tree right here, this big one near the road, and I was told that's the oldest cherry tree in Litchfield County. So, and it looks like it's been struck by lightning a couple times. Anyway, someday that will make a beautiful piece of furniture or a floor. So, my philosophy on gardening is I like to, again, just as I design interiors, I like to, mix plants, and I like to, sort of mix shapes and add a little structure where I can, and I like that sort of mixture of structure and unstructured. And I'd say most of the structure of the garden is here in the center, where I have these boxwoods. We also call this house Boxwood Row for this reason. And the boxwood, these are little babies when I put them in, and you can see, they're huge now. They're like 6 feet tall, but they provide sort of structure for the garden, and then everything else is sort of, I like grow wild. This is a huge perennial garden. I'll take you up. A bit overwhelming too. There's a lot. Again, like this time of year is like, it's actually time to start cutting back things as well. This is a different color every month. So right now it's mostly pinks, but it starts off being blue. This is a little patio I put in, and I was weeding, and I noticed that these little guys were coming in through the stones of the patio, and I just left them. But again, why not? Like, if you find something beautiful, like a beautiful moment, just let it happen. There's no need. Let them grow through, and I think it's wonderful. It's a wonderful spot. You can sit here. And you've got these beautiful, like this verbena, this backdrop of verbena. This pink flower is echinacea, and I think I planted only a few plants initially, and you can see where it's like completely taken over, but I think it's beautiful. I mean, I love the pink flowers, and they stay like this for a good month or more. That's the remnants of my beehives. Although I haven't had bees in 2 years because they were taken out by this unwanted bear, I still keep them down there. You can see in the distance over here is a tree house. This is something I built for my son, and we created this little. It's a little campground too, but it's a 40-foot high treehouse, and we have bunk beds in it, and it's it's a place where we used to go and camp out, kids and I. I have to say, I've camped out a few times. It's a little creepy. You hear a lot of animals out there. One night, I swear I heard a really large animal crawling on the roof. A little weird, but it's fun. It's really fun, and it's what I like about it. It's like this little escape on the property. So this is what you see here is this natural outcropping that, I mean, I think it's incredible. I've planted it all out with perennials, and the ferns are really happy there. But again, to sort of conform with the contour of the rock outcropping, we made the pool sort of in a regular shape because I wanted to feel kind of, I wanted to feel like it fits in with the landscape as opposed to standing out. So you'll see, it feels more like a pond. So 2 weeks ago, we were here and woke up in the morning and looked out here, and there was a bear swimming in the pool. Literally, a 400-pound bear was swimming in the pool, and he was blowing bubbles. He cooled off and he went up through the garden. This is a vast perennial garden here. There's so much material growing in here. And again, every season every season looks different, or I should say every month. Right now it's like the tail end. Asters are coming up. These are these giant asters, which are so cool, I think. I planted a couple here, and now they're just taking over. But again, I think that one of the secrets to having a successful garden is to think about the things that are sort of native to the area. You want to grow things, you want to cultivate things that are happy, that are going to come back year after year. You also don't want to necessarily grow things that are going to be invasive or take over. And a lot of that's trial and error. For instance, this white plant material is called loosestrife, and I didn't know that it was so invasive. So there's certain things that you have to cut back. You have to constantly cut back because you don't want it to take over the garden. It's easy for that to happen. Oh, the other area I want to show you is there's one more garden. It's more like a rock garden. I planted these vines, and they've just taken over, but I love it. They bloom at different times, but I like how it's created this lush wall. It's like a lush divider between, into the pool area. Nice transition. Yeah, this is a little escape area. So it's an area to sit and read, take a nap. There's also a hammock here as well. It's a good escape back here. One thing I will say is, I've experimented. I've had vegetables growing here over the years, and I've stopped with the vegetables. Now I have herbs growing, but it's mostly just cut flowers because I think it's just one of the nicest things to do is to be able to come up here on the weekends and just cut fresh flowers from the property. So that's what I like to do. So home to me is a place where you feel safe and you feel happy, and you can walk in and just have that aha moment, like, ah, I'm so glad to be home. This is where I belong. And I love to travel. I'm always moving. I have an apartment in the city, and I'm up here as much as I can, usually weekends, but I also do a lot of work in the area. So, I'm up here whenever I can, but, walking in here, I always get that feeling like, I'm home, finally. So I think that to me is most important.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.